Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian. This is The Take on Thursday, May 7th. What an interesting couple of days that we've really had. And when we've gotten into the month of May, the very first day, huge volumes. Market was down about 600 points. They all have that expression, which I can't stand, but sell in May and go away. Some of these things work, some really don't. So anyhow, will that play out? We'll see, because we have had some pressure. We've had some late day moves. You go back to Monday, the last 2 hours of the trading day, pulled back significantly. You go back to Tuesday, it was the final hour of trade, pulled back significantly. Yesterday, the final 45 minutes or so, maybe 35 minutes, we dropped about 200 points on the Dow in that last 35 minutes of the trading day. So we are seeing a little bit of a trend here where we've had some solid gains and then we start losing those gains towards the latter part of the day. Now, yesterday, NASDAQ still finished positive. We talk about dislocations all the time. NASDAQ still finished up positive, and it was Apple, it was PayPal, a lot of the various chip names. Microsoft's been an absolute monster. We know about that name. But the pulling of the Dow, and the reason the Dow actually finished down about 1%, you had the financials, you got Travelers, you've got AXP, you got JP Morgan, various names moving to the downside, and throw in a little bit of the industrial space, throw in something like a Boeing, maybe Dow. So there was some pulling to the downside, and particularly late in the trading session. Now, it's been interesting to see where the leadership is, and it's been kind of moving around rotationally, and we talk about that being usually pretty healthy, but the volatility, because of the movement, was something that really stood out. We finished up about at around 34 on the volatility index. And again, we've been in that range we've been talking about. We broke out for a moment to the upside and then immediately came right back into this lower range that where we're sitting there somewhere close between 31 and 35. Call it something like that. You could even maybe narrow it down even a little bit more, but we have seen volatility just sort of holding up a little bit here. We've seen it spike up. We were talking about 40 just the other day. So we know that there's the possibility of that at any moment in time. We could see that volatility spike right back up again with any kind of news. And we know that it's just even words, just a couple of words, talking about China, the president maybe expressing some of his opinions about that. There's all kinds of different things. Maybe it's the drug. Maybe it's Gilead. Maybe it's something J&J's doing. Maybe it's something Pfizer's doing. All of these various areas certainly could impact the markets. And we know about the robots. We know about how the algo trading really does work. And it's at times we see it right there in front of us. And it's so simple to see. It's amazing. And literally triggering off a single word. So earnings yesterday, a lot of different names coming out. We start off with the financials. You start moving through, and each and every week it's something else, and we talk about technology names. What was it yesterday? Well, we had Lyft, Twilio, Peloton, PayPal, Win, and a slew of other names outside of that. And overall, it seemed like the tone for most of those ended up being actually a little bit better than expected. So some pretty nice reactions, and I'm going to highlight one of those for you in just a minute or so here. But, you know, interesting today, we start off the market very, very strong. And we've seen this game played over and over again. So now everybody's starting to question, well, will we hold on? When will we start to sift down to the downside? Certainly been a possibility. And we've seen that late in the day, as I said, over the last couple of trading sessions so far this month of May. And we talk about volume. We're about 3.5 million contracts under the average volume year to date. So we really are seeing, and that includes, by the way, a monster start last Friday on May 1st, where we were over 30 million contracts. So that even shows you even more of the impact of how the volumes really have pulled back from where they had been trading throughout the rest of the year. And then suddenly we have this big pullback. And so that's something that I think needs to be monitored, and we'll obviously keep an eye. Now, we're only at May 7th. We've only had a couple of trading sessions, so we'll see as we get a little bit deeper into May if that starts to hold up and we're not seeing as much volume. But that's certainly something that stands out. So early on, all the major indices were up about 1.3%. Right now, all the major indices are up about 1.2%. So hanging in there right now pretty well. When I look at the Dow trading close to up 300 points, about 270 points right now. I look at the NASDAQ, which is trading up nearly 100 points. They're all today, there isn't that dislocation. They're all working together in terms of where they are percentage-wise And it's something that we don't see as often. So it's something worth pointing out that we're not just seeing the big five lead, we're actually getting participation in other areas. And where are we getting some of that participation? Financials. Financials are having a really nice day today. As a matter of fact, you look over at the XLF and it's trading just under 3% on a gain. That's a pretty nice move to the upside, around 2.75% to the upside. Tech actually lagging just a little bit right now. And energy, explosive move, almost 3% to the upside. And why is that? Because we look at the price of oil, it's up about 9%. It's trading over 26. So that's all feeding into this whole thing. And you got names like Chevron and the tech space. It's really Apple and a couple of the other names. We talk about it. It's up, but it's not up what it's been going in terms of normally if we're seeing the Dow up, let's call it close to 2%, 1.5%, we'd probably see the NASDAQ up maybe 2%, but we're not seeing that. Now, all those major averages, at least today, are moving to the upside again together. And you look at the financials, it's across the board. If you want to add in a PayPal, so fintech, but then look at JP Morgan, take a look at Goldman Sachs, Visa, Travelers. Again, Ameriprise, by the way, up 20% today. That's a nice big spike for a financial that doesn't get talked about very often, but should probably get talked about a little more often than we do. I mentioned Twilio earlier. We talked about the earnings. How about going back to Monday? So Monday, on our blog, on the Market Rebellion, for those that follow the unusual option activity, we had some pretty decent buying in there. We had about 3,000 of the May 125 strike calls. Stock was trading 112.55. So call it under 113. They're buying the 125s. You wonder, how is the stock going to make any kind of a move like that? It's already made a tremendous move. Is there any room to the upside? But you see that unusual option activity certainly does triggered for a lot of us on the site, and matter of fact, me included. So those are going for about $2. Now, the interesting part of that is those today, because of where the stock is, which call it around 162. I've seen it even higher, but let's call it 162. Those options now that were a little over $2 now trading something well over $40. So gives you a little idea. We talk risk reward all the time. You cannot expect trades like that to happen all that often. But when you do, it's fortunate when you are a part of that. And Twilio, we know what a volatile stock it can be. It's got a huge short interest, and I'm sure that's playing into it. You add in the earnings with an incredible amount of short interest, and you're going to get an explosive move. Now, last night, it was an explosive move. It wasn't anything close to what we're seeing today. Today, really ramping to the upside, and I think that's just sort of the cascade of a lot of different earnings. Take a look at Raytheon. Look at some of these other names that are performing very, very nicely today, as a matter of fact, post-earnings. So you go down the line and PayPal and all these names, Peloton, Lyft, all these names really trading really well today, and because of that, I think that's sort of, they're pulling each other up along the way. So I'm going to give you another unusual option activity starting right here. Not expecting as much out of this one, but just had earnings just the other day, and it's Pinterest. Now, Pinterest, we've had a lot of paper in there of late. Most of it's been right. Some of it's been wrong. So we'll see if this go around, we see something that actually works. But I like the risk reward. I like where the trade is. It's not expecting some gigantic move, but we get any kind of a move to the upside could really be something special. So I'm looking at Pinterest right now. The May 18.5, stock trading right at 18. They started selling the puts to the downside, a very large number of puts. And just a few minutes after that, we get a gigantic buy, 5,700 of the May 18.5 calls, trading for about 70 cents. Pretty aggressive buying there on the calls, pretty aggressive selling there on the puts. So it gives you an idea of at least what the mentality is of these trades. And I would wager a guess that they're probably somehow connected. I don't know positively, but a lot of the time when we see stuff like this, there seems to be something connected to that kind of a trade. Anyway, very bullish, interesting to see. It's a 70-cent option, little over a week, call it a week and a couple of days for this to pan out. We'll see how well this does pan out, but you have to be in the game to be a part of the game, to have a winner in the game. And that's something we're always looking at. You got to be disciplined as well. I'm out, by the way, at Twilio. I'm not going to stay any longer. Everything was great. But I think you have to have that discipline in every trade, good or bad. And we talk about it all the time. Make sure you understand the options world. We have the best educators there are. These guys know exactly, a lot of them, most of them, been on the floor trading themselves. They understand, so they've transitioned from the floor to the online space, and now they're doing a great job with education, something we're really, really proud of, because we don't want people to go in and have a bad experience right out of the gate because they weren't educated well enough. So that's something we really pride ourselves on. So understand the options world, the risks, and all the rest. Folks, have a great day of trading. Really excited about today. I got to tell you something. Can't wipe the smile off my face right now. I had a terrible day yesterday, and today really waking up to a really great day. So make today great as well. Take care.